Hey tubers, it's your girl Shannon from Tesla and Chill, and today is a really monumental day for our little Kanye. Our Model 3 is going to be going over the border. It's going to go into another country. We are going to take Kanye to Canada today, and I'm super excited. I know that's not like really exotic, but it's still a big deal because it's another country. So Kanye is going to go on his first international trip, and I have a few concerns, to be honest. We'll go over those in just a second. But right now I'm in the Honda Accord. I'm running just a few last minute errands to pick up some things for our trip. My in-laws are in town, my husband's family. They are going to be watching J3 so my husband and I can get away by ourselves so we can get crunk. Just kidding, that's not responsible. But I'm super excited since they're in town and they're going to be watching him, and they are so sweet and I'm so thankful for them. And side note, my mother-in-law has a bomb in Instagram. If you are into like yoga or healthy eating or fitness, you definitely want to check out her gram and you definitely want to follow her. Here it is right here. Find Your Strong by Shannon. And I know her name and my name are the same. That was one of the reasons I thought I couldn't marry my husband, was because that would be really weird if his mom and my name were the same. But it worked out, thankfully, and he's mine. So anyways, follow her on Instagram and let's keep talking about Kanye, because when we go to Vancouver, some of my concerns crossing that like international border really come down to what's going to happen to our navigation. So in America, all Teslas have an AT&T SIM card and you kind of have service wherever you go. Granted, we have lost service like if we're in the mountains or if we're in like a really wooded area that we're driving through, and that kind of makes me nervous just being in America without a little bit of service. So going into another country where I really don't know where I'm going, that makes me really nervous because I don't know, like, are we going to completely lose service? Are we just going to lose it temporarily? What's going to happen when we cross the border? I'm sure I could Google it, but I'm not really one for like a ton of research, so we're just going to wing it. But my other question would be, like, how do I know how fast I'm going when I'm driving? Because they do kilometers instead of miles per hour. And you know, in like the old cars on your speedometer, it would have like miles per hour, and then right underneath it, it would have like the conversion in kilometers. Since Kanye is all digital, I don't know exactly how that's gonna work, if he's gonna like do the conversion, or if we're just gonna have to like guesstimate how fast we're going and just kind of keep up with the flow of traffic. I don't know, we're gonna have to see and find out. And then my last question is going to be, what is charging going to be like? We're probably going to charge right before we go over the border, but I don't know how much driving we're going to do when we're there. I don't know like where all the charging stations are. I don't really know that much about Canada to begin with. I know they have like Canadian bacon and maple syrup and Mounties, and they're really good at hockey, and it's really cold. That's about the extent of my knowledge. And they're really friendly. Let's see. So that's pretty much what I know about Canada, but my general impression is that they're really environmentally friendly. So I'm kind of going to assume that like the rest of the world, they're kind of getting on board with like the electric car trend. So I'm sure there'll be some places to charge, but it still makes me a little nervous not knowing and being in another country. But that's what we're going to document. We're going to find out what that's like. So we're gonna go stay at the Trump Tower, and I'm super excited because I have never stayed in one before. I've only been to one, and it was in New York City, and I met a friend there for brunch. But now we're gonna stay there in Canada, in Vancouver, and I think that sounds super American of us to be going to another country and staying in an American hotel. But hey, I'm American, so that's what we're gonna do. We are gonna go check it out. We're gonna do some exploring. We're gonna get away. And then afterwards, we'll have a quick recap of what everything was like. And hopefully, it'll be a really good trip where we're gonna want to do it again. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna check in with you on the road, and we'll pick things up from there. here in Blaine, Washington. So while it's charging, we are gonna go over here and we are gonna get some coffee from Woods Coffee. And hopefully when we come back super soon, it will be full and have a really good charge to get us the rest of the way to Canada. We're really close to the border now, and we could technically make it to the Trump Tower, but we don't want to go there and just have 15% battery, so we're just getting a little refuel right here. Well, I think we've got enough charge. We're at 85%, so we're gonna get on our way because it's dark and cold, and we are ready to get there. Before I end this video, I did just want to touch upon some of my main concerns we had when I was leaving to go into Canada. And probably one of my biggest concerns, like you remember, was what was going to happen to our service and navigation once we went over the border. And when we were right at the border of Washington and Canada, we did temporarily lose service, but it was only for like 30 seconds or maybe a minute. And it was right when we were going through like their immigration or customs, you know, when you like hand your passport to them for them to look at. So we lost service literally for just a few seconds when we were there. And then once we kept driving into Canada, our service just resumed and picked up right where it left off. We didn't even have to like retype in the hotel we were going to. It literally just like resumed service like nothing had happened and there wasn't even an interruption. So I was super thankful about that. We had service the whole time we were there with no other issues. Now, in terms of my other concern, going from miles per hour to kilometers, now, I know some of you might be able to do that conversion really quick in your head, but I'm not really a mathematician, so I can't do that. But that ended up being a non-issue too. Going into Canada, the car automatically did that conversion, and then kilometers just showed up on our screen, and we didn't even have to worry about miles per hour anymore. And why wouldn't it? It's a Tesla. It's super intuitive. I shouldn't have doubted that it wouldn't have done that. And then very lastly, my concern was going to be charging, where we were going to find charging stations or what was charging going to be like. And thankfully, we didn't even need to charge when we were in Canada. We charged right before we got into Canada at the border when we were still in Washington, and we had enough juice to really get us through the whole weekend. We didn't do a ton of driving when we were there. We could have if we wanted to, because there were actually chargers in parking garages and, you know, right on the streets that we passed. So we could have if we needed to, but thankfully we did not need to. So we were able to go all the way back into Washington, and we only charged one time in Washington before we made it home. So that was super great. And probably one of the most surprising things for me was the fact that Teslas were like the #1 electric car that I saw when we were there. They were literally like on every corner. It felt like I was just walking along the streets in Seattle because there were so many Teslas. There were lots of Model X's, lots of Model 3s. I saw a few Model S's, but mostly X's and 3s. Now, the only other electric cars I saw, I did see one Chevy Bolt and I saw one Nissan Leaf. That was it. All the other electric cars were Teslas. So that was really cool, especially as a Tesla consumer and a Tesla fan. That just made me feel good. I felt like I was with my people. Probably one of the best parts of the trip was the fact that using our Tesla, it was essentially free for us to get to and from Canada. So we did stop at the supercharger on our way to Canada and on our way back home to Washington to charge, but since someone had used our referral code, we ended up getting those free supercharger miles, so we didn't have to pay for anything. Even our hotel ended up being free because we had enough American Express points we had accumulated throughout the year to pay for our stay. So it was essentially a free weekend trip, although we did have to pay for food. But overall, it was a super fun trip. I definitely learned a lot as a Tesla owner, and I can't wait for our next trip. Now that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.